Let's talk about my favorite tool in the whole world, basically, and that is the BiC pen, and specifically these ones, the BiC round stick. These are not, there's really not anything specific with these pens. I just love them because these are the pens that I started with over 10 years ago, just sketching stuff. I like the texture. It's not the glossy texture that you find on most other pens. This is a digital pen, but you know, you get the point. These are very glossy, and this has some texture to it, so it means that when you get, you know, into the sketching and your hands get sweaty, you're not gonna slide around too much on these pens, and they are super cheap. So I'm just gonna continue using these for probably the rest of my life. I don't have any reason to change. But the thing here is, I don't want you to get caught up on brands and specific tools in this course. You can use literally any pen. So here I have a random, I don't know what this is. This is like a more of a Sharpie highlighter. You know, you can sketch with this too. It doesn't really matter. But so for the sake of keeping it simple, just use any pen that you have available. So I want to show you a couple of techniques that I love to use when it comes to BiC sketching. And if you, for example, if you only have BiC pens or a pen, but you don't have any markers, but you still want to get some shading done and, you know, get some depth into your sketching, there are a few things such as, first of all, line practice. Get the straight lines, curves, ellipses, and circles. Then we have shading. So we have line shading, cross shading techniques, and gradients. How do you get the gradient with a BiC pen from light to dark? I'm going to show you all of this. So let's start by sketching a. Let's do a couple of squares on the paper, so we can use to fill in different ways. As you can see, I'm rotating the paper just to make it easy for myself to get the line straight. I mean, you have the option to rotate the paper, so why not use it and just make it easier for yourself. Alright, so I'm gonna use regular line shading here, just straight up line shade this whole square right here. Not gonna do any shading or any gradients or pressure differences here. So what you want to do is just start by moving the pen from one side to the other. And when I do this, you kind of want to keep the wrist locked and move your elbow when you're sketching. In general, when you're sketching anything, basically, you want to keep your wrist locked and move your whole shoulder and elbow. That way you're gonna get straighter lines and just a smoother looking sketch. So let's say we want to do the same thing, but now we want to have some gradient to it. So what we want to do, there are two ways to adjust there are two ways to create a gradient. One is the distance between these lines. The further apart they are, the less of a shade, darker shade you're gonna get. And the second part is obviously how to use pressure in your sketching, and we're gonna do both here. So first of all, I'm gonna start by going from light up here to darker down here. So as you can see, I'm starting with a very big distance between the lines here, and as we go further down this way, I'm gonna start to get the lines narrower and make them more compact. And I also like to go through this one more time to get the shading right with the BiC pen. So I'm gonna start from from kind of the middle now and just continue to go down. And at the same time, I'm adjusting the pressure. So I'm going harder and harder here. Something like that. And it doesn't matter if you go over the lines here, you can always come back with a big pen or the pen. I think I'm just gonna call it the pen for now on, so I don't confuse you. You don't need a big pen. And you can just go in and just finish the edges. Something like this. Just clean it up if you want to do that. So there we have a nice gradient using just parallel lines, but there are also another way, which is called cross shading. I'm going to show you this on this rectangle right or cube right here. So that's basically just going as we did with the first cube, just go over this whole thing, normal. And then if you want to add some more shading to it, we just rotate the paper and go 90 degrees. And then just go the other way. And you can play around with this. So for example, if you want the top part to be darker, we can go over that one more time. And I like to keep the lines the same angle as before. And we can add some more line shading into this, or cross shading. This obviously will take a lot more time than if we had markers available, right? Because it takes more time to create each individual line than it does to do a couple of strokes with markers just to get this basic shading done. But it's a good practice because sometimes you're gonna have to use only the BiC or the pen to create some sketches, and then this is a good way to know how to use the shading to get that done. And same thing here, I'm going to add some more weight to this. So now if we want to combine all of these, we want to use the line weight and we want to use the gradient. So I'm going to do similar to this, but then I'm going to add the line weight as well, just to get even more depth to the sketch. So start as always by just filling this in with normal lines like this. Something like that. Then I'm gonna go through it one more time. It's getting a bit tricky when you get to this corner because you don't have the space to make a full line, so you kind of have to go over the edge of the line or the cube, but it's all good since I'm gonna go back and clean that up soon. Alright, so let's say we want to add even more depth. So this thing here is that the light source is coming from here. It's pretty obvious since this is the lightest point and this is the darkest, so the light goes from there to there. And what that means is that these two lines, this one and this line or edge right here, are going to be darker than these two since they are in the shade. So what I want to do is add line weight to these, add a thicker line to these, just to give it some more 3D and give it a bit of direction and weight. So these techniques can be applied to pretty much any type of sketching, even if you're doing illustration, not just product design and car design. So it's super useful and it's very easy to get going because all you need is just a big pen and a piece of paper. I want to fill this in just a bit more. You know, a lot of people want to jump ahead in their learning, so you know, maybe sometimes it's easy to think that just jumping into sketching whatever you want to sketch, complex products and cars and stuff like that, that's how you should start. But that's kind of making the whole process of learning longer. So the more you practice the basics, such as these exercises right here, the faster you're gonna understand how these techniques can be applied to more complex shapes. So that's what I wanted to show you with the BiC pen, some basic shading techniques, and I would like for you to do these exercises right now. So grab a pen and some piece of paper and go over a couple of surfaces like this. You don't have to do it a square, you can do it a circle, which is even more complex, or an ellipse, or whatever you want.